When I was 7, a Taoist priest claimed I was born with a special eye. My father's face lit up with joy, and he asked, "Is it the eye of Dharma or the eye of heaven?" The eye of Dharma discerns the workings of all things, while the eye of heaven perceives past and future. Those who possess either are 1 in 10,000, truly extraordinary individuals. The Taoist priest shook his head and said, "It is a ghost eye." Not long after I was born, my mother noticed something unusual about me. When I was learning to walk, I would be moving along perfectly well, only to inexplicably trip and fall. I often cried inconsolably, and the usual methods parents use to comfort children proved utterly useless. Yet, when I fell asleep at night, I was strangely quiet, like a corpse. My father often couldn't help but reach out to confirm I was still breathing. When I grew a little older, the first words I spoke were, "Mom, I can't see clearly." Only then did they realize there was something wrong with my eyes. Most of the time, my eyesight was normal, but sometimes my vision would grow dim, as if looking through a layer of gray glass. Once the scene stabilized, I saw that besides my father and mother, there were many more people walking around our home. Some of them smiled, pointing and gesturing at me. Others wore malicious expressions and had incomplete bodies. But my father and mother seemed oblivious, acting as if these figures didn't exist. Perhaps out of some apprehension, those figures never approached too closely. Our family lived in a small coastal village, and despite its remoteness, our life was relatively prosperous. My father ran a small convenience store and often traveled to the city for supplies, making him well-traveled and knowledgeable. With a decisive wave of his hand, he declared, "Son, we're going to the city to see a doctor." We went to the county town and then to the provincial capital. We ate many delicious foods and saw many doctors. After much effort and several detours, we finally secured an appointment with the provincial capital's most renowned ophthalmologist. My father took out a thick wad of cash, handed it to a man in a leather jacket, and in return received a small slip of paper. "Dad, is he a doctor?" I asked, looking up. My father opened his wallet, tucked the slip of paper deep inside, and then smiled as he shook his head. "He's a scalper." "That's good," I thought, relieved. At that time, I was still young and didn't understand what a scalper meant. But I saw that around the man in the leather jacket, there were many patients suffering from festering sores. On the ceiling, a woman lay prone, half of her head missing. A long tongue dangled down, licking the back of the man's head. I knew that this tout was about to die. The examination results were in. Everything was normal. "Your son's eyesight is good enough to be a pilot." The doctor handed the physical examination report to Dad, joking with a smile. "That's impossible. My child wouldn't lie. He used to fall down often before," Dad said. "As a father, I fully understand your feelings." The doctor was uncharacteristically serious. Medicine is a very objective thing. If the child has no visual impairment and all indicators are normal, then there is no problem. However, Dad still wanted to speak. The doctor waved his hand. "Rather than his eyesight, you should be more concerned about your child's psychological issues." I tugged at Dad's sleeve. "Dad, let's go." In this large hospital, there were too many people that only I could see. As I grew older, I gradually understood from adult conversations that these people were referred to as ghosts or the dead. Unwilling to give up, Dad took me to a hospital in Beijing half a year later. "Uncle Yang, my child's illness is still causing you trouble." Dad's voice was somewhat reserved. It was said that Grandpa Yang was the most accomplished person from our village in nearly 100 years. He had entered the capital as a doctor early on and was an honored guest of many high-ranking officials and nobles. Grandpa Yang looked at me and smiled kindly. It's nothing serious, just change his name to dispel the negative energy. From now on, don't call him Yang Hai, call him Yang Yan. After returning from Beijing, Dad took me to the Ancestral temple, where he respectfully worshipped our ancestors. After the name change, my eyesight improved for a while, and I no longer suddenly fell due to blurry vision. As long as I opened my eyes, those dead people were everywhere in the village corners, never disappearing again. That year, when I was 7, a Taoist priest came to our doorstep. Seeing me, he was somewhat surprised. "Your son's eyes, it seems, are somewhat unusual," Father quickly asked. The Taoist priest pondered for a long time, then said, "The heavenly eye can perceive the past and future, predicting fortune and misfortune. The Dharma eye can discern changes in the world, observing with utmost clarity." Father hastily inquired, "Yanner?" The Taoist priest performed a quick calculation with his fingers, and his expression brightened slightly. "It seems he has encountered a master, otherwise your son would not have lived past 10 years old." Looking for a beating, Father flew into a rage and went to grab his sleeve. "Your son is—" Before he could finish speaking, the Taoist priest bled from all 7 orifices, trembling like a sieve. He waved his hand to stop Father, then slowly, word by word, finished. The Taoist priest did not die. According to him, this was a backlash for revealing a heavenly secret. The ghost eye, commonly known as the yin-yang eye, allows communication with the deceased and travel between the realms of yin and yang. Though people with ghost eyes are not numerous, they are not few either. But why did simply revealing this secret cause him such severe injury? As he left, he said we had a karmic connection and offered to take me as his disciple. Taoist arts are not to be lightly transmitted. I acquired a book during my travels in earlier years, which I will give to you, young friend, as a memento. I took it and saw a character written on it, resembling Zhan War and also Luan Chaos. As I continued to look, the entire character began to spin, then surged into my mind. Oh, and the Taoist priest pointed at the jade pendant on my chest. "We are connected by fate. We shall meet again someday." Having said that, he walked away nonchalantly. Thereafter, I attended school while also reading that book. Who would have thought this book was actually a secret text on Feng Shui? I am a genius in this area. Whenever I had free time, I would open it and study. I also learned many things from the book. For instance, after a person dies, family members often hold a funeral so that the soul may pass on. Those whose funeral rites are incomplete are prone to becoming wandering souls, lingering in the human realm for a long time before slowly dissipating. Wandering souls are harmless to humans. At most, when passing by someone, they might stir up a cool breeze. Most of the ghosts I encountered were like this. Those who die with a lingering grudge are prone to becoming vengeful spirits. Because scalpers controlled appointment slots, many patients couldn't receive timely medical attention and subsequently died from severe illness. After their deaths, many transformed into vengeful spirits. Vengeful spirits cannot directly kill people. They can only slowly drain a person's life force. Once plagued by a vengeful spirit, one might experience mild symptoms like low spirits and physical weakness, or severe consequences such as sudden misfortune and accidental death. There exists a type of vengeful spirit whose death was exceptionally painful, whose resentment runs deep, and whose soul is particularly potent, thus transforming them into a rare and formidable malevolent ghost. These malevolent ghosts seek vengeance, losing all reason, retaliating wildly, often harming the innocent. At this point, a thought stirred within me, recalling an old incident from several years prior. When I was a child and went to the provincial hospital, there was a woman in a red dress hanging from the ceiling behind that scalper. She was most likely a malevolent ghost. At the time, I only knew she sought revenge on the scalper, but I hadn't considered she might also harm the innocent. It was summer vacation, so I used attending a high school entrance exam cram course as an excuse to ask Dad for some money. And with that book in hand, I boarded the bus to the provincial capital. Upon arriving at the provincial hospital, I went around asking people if they knew someone who liked to wear a black leather jacket. People wear leather jackets everywhere. I even wear one after work, the nurse said. I thought for a moment and added, she likes to sell appointment slots. She's a scalper. A scalper? The young nurse's smile faded. I don't know anyone like that. Another, older nurse pulled me aside and whispered, Child, where are you from? Why are you asking about this? It turned out that about 10 years ago, that scalper died in a car accident on her way home from the hospital. Her entire body was severed at the waist, and a part of her head was crushed. Reportedly, money was scattered everywhere, soaked in dark blood, and no one dared to pick it up. Having harmed many people, it was likely retribution. The auntie nurse sighed. Auntie, in the months before her death, did any woman die in a car accident? I asked. Her expression changed, as if she had thought of something ominous. Why ask that? It's bad luck. Quickly leave. I found an old newspaper office. The owner was an old man. I pulled out 5 yuan, and the old man thought for a moment. 10 years ago, I remember a woman was hit by a car and died outside the hospital. The old man took the money, but his words remained unfinished. Do you remember where it was? What was her name? I hastily inquired. Additional payment, the old man declared, extending his hand with a faint, enigmatic smile. With a frustrated huff, I produced another 10 yuan and placed it sharply in his palm. Accursed capitalism. I truly can't recall clearly. I'll have to look for it. The old man moved to a corner and opened a chest, revealing thick stacks of newspapers, one for each year. Quite impressive. 2 hours later, he pulled out a newspaper. This is her, he declared. On a certain month and day, a car speeding on Fukang Road caused 1 death and 3 injuries. The deceased was a woman. Holding the newspaper, I mentally calculated, my expression suddenly shifting dramatically. This is terrible. How could she be at the school? Once a malevolent spirit descends into a frenzy, the casualties can be catastrophic. With the slightest carelessness, all teachers and students in the school could perish. Late at night, I scaled the courtyard wall and arrived at the school playground. Though it was clearly July, gusts of eerie wind swept through. Thick, viscous blood surged from beneath the ground, rising past my ankles. The entire playground transformed into a sea of blood. Countless imps emerged from the sanguineous depths, swirling around me, howling and clamoring. I pulled out the book from my embrace and swung it with force. With each strike, the forms of several imps dimmed noticeably. The weaker ones vanished directly into dust. The 4 characters Yuing Middle School on the school gate plaque were gradually covered by the bloodstains, transforming into Yuing Nursery Middle School. This school had already become a den of ghosts. It was no wonder that for over a decade, students at this school had annually committed suicide by jumping or slitting their wrists. Before even encountering the main entity, as I continued striking, I sank heavily into the sea of blood, experiencing palpitations, fear, and difficulty breathing. I frantically waved the book gifted by the Taoist priest, apparently striking something. With a pained shriek, he retreated several steps. Why do you refuse to spare me?" he demanded harshly. The female ghost in the red dress seemed wary of the book in my hand, constantly shifting her form, ready to seize an opportunity to strike. I said, "The yellow ox is dead. Your great vengeance has been satisfied. It is time for you to pass on. Scalpers, revenge, ha." The female ghost's fingernails grew extraordinarily long, as two streams of black blood flowed from her eye sockets. Ignoring the searing pain inflicted by the Taoist book, he clutched my head and lifted me high into the air. "Zhang Yuing, Teacher Zhang," I uttered with great difficulty. That afternoon, at the gatekeeper's post, I traded a pack of cigarettes for his name. Upon hearing these words, a measure of clarity returned to the female ghost's eyes. He released his grip, squatted on the ground, and began to weep. "Woo, woo, woo," he sobbed. "He ruined the future of hundreds of children." Teacher Zhang was the homeroom teacher for the senior graduating class. The day of the car accident was just a few days before the Gayakao, the very day he was scheduled to collect the admission tickets. A speeding car struck him down, and another scalper, named Sun Zaiwaran, absconded with the bag containing the admission tickets. Sun Zaiwaran whispered into his semi-conscious ear, informing him that those were the admission tickets for the students in those two classes. "Tell me," he asked, "should such a person be killed or not?" The female ghost lifted her head, and under the moonlight, two streams of emerald tears flowed. After listening to his account, I fell silent. Could it be that he became a vengeful spirit, not because of his own demise, but because of the children's compromised futures? Another thought came to mind, and my nerves tightened once more. Vengeful spirits must continuously absorb vital essence to persist in the mortal realm. If only Sun Zaiwaran had been killed, he could not possibly have endured for 10 years without dissipating. "How many others have you killed?" I inquired. 13, he replied, a smile gracing his lips. "You must surely consider me an evil spirit," he remarked. "Approximately once a year, I would depart from this place to eliminate a scalper. My initial intention was to eradicate all of them, but excessive slaughter would cause me to lose myself entirely. During other times, I would confine myself to the sports field, finding it impossible to move even an inch beyond its bounds." I finally understood. The reason he confined himself to the sports field was to continue his guardianship over the students. The school was originally plagued by minor spirits, but he had suppressed them here as well, preventing their departure. I initially believed that with me overseeing these minor spirits, the situation would improve somewhat, Teacher Zhang stated. Yet, to my dismay, students continue to commit suicide every year. He suddenly grabbed my hand. "Brother, you are no ordinary person. Help me take a look. Are there still powerful ghosts inside this school?" I shook my head, letting out a deep sigh. Apart from the sports field, there were no ghosts within the school. What could be unseen even by ghosts? The vanishing weekends, the endless cram sessions, the highly demanding parents, all of these became the ghosts of the school, the ghosts of society. This was merely the beginning of the tragedy. Was this truly just the beginning? Teacher Zhang released his grip. As a former excellent teacher, he quickly grasped the implications. "Things will change, won't they?" He looked at me with expectation. Unable to bear it, I replied, "It will get better. Teacher Zhang, I will take you to a place." "All right." No sooner had he spoken than he began shaking his head frantically. "I won't go, I won't go. We cannot allow negative energy to pollute the children's campus." He hesitated. "It's all right," I assured him. I took his hand and we walked towards a stone monument. Upon reading the inscription, Teacher Zhang was struck as if by lightning. His body trembled and tears streamed down his face. "To our alma mater and to the dearest Teacher Zhang. Respectfully presented by all students of Senior Class 3, Sections 1 and 2, graduating class of 2010. Below it were the densely inscribed names of every student. Perhaps initially, the scalper Sun Zaiwaran had considered taking advantage of the situation to extort some money. However, once the matter escalated, he feared implication and secretly returned the examination permits. Teacher Zhang, having transformed into a vengeful spirit and confined himself to the sports field, had not completely lost his faculties, but had remained unaware of these developments. I said softly, "All 100 students from back then participated in the Gaokao. Today, some have become entrepreneurs, some lawyers, and others, like you, are teaching and educating in schools. Teacher Zhang, they all remember you with great gratitude." Teacher Zhang cried and laughed simultaneously. "Good, that's good, as long as the children are all right." I secretly observed, noticing that his menacing visage was steadily receding, transforming into that of a slender young girl. His obsession now resolved. This was a clear sign that the vengeful spirit was about to disappear. "Thank you, young one." Zhang Yueying wiped away her tears. "May I know your name? In my current state, I am indeed not yet a match for a vengeful spirit." Zhang Yueying walked towards the sports field, her slender figure gradually fading away. "There's one last thing. You won't stop me, will you?" he asked with a smile. "I'll listen to the teacher," I replied. I knew he intended to take those little spirits on the playground with him. The bloody water on the playground instantly gathered, engulfing the little spirits, and then abruptly dissipated moments later. Looking at the small note in my palm that read "Good luck with the high school entrance exam," I smiled knowingly. "Farewell, Teacher Zhang." After returning to the village, my father gave me a good scolding. He thought I had sneaked out to play, heedless of the risk of being abducted. Nevertheless, upon seeing me return, he seemed somewhat relieved. From a very young age, I stopped telling him about the world I saw. Besides fearing his worry, there was also a selfish desire to keep it to myself. This was another world, uniquely mine. I successfully got into high school and also learned some magical arts. The most miraculous art in the book was the spirit mediumship I had witnessed back then. It was a form of witchcraft similar to divine descent, allowing one to invite deities to possess a body. However, the conditions were too stringent, and without a master's guidance, it was nearly impossible to master. As I was grappling with the difficulties of spirit mediumship, grim news arrived from the village. Zhao Guang had disappeared. He had been missing for a week. Neither the school nor his family could find him. Rumors began to circulate in the village, suggesting that as a left-behind child, with no one to protect him, he had been abducted by ghosts. That's nonsense, I thought. I had asked all the ghosts in the village, and they denied any involvement. One little ghost remained silent, pointed vaguely in a direction, and then fled in panic. That old temple was a forbidden place in the village. Long ago, before this place was called Yongjia Village, someone worshipped an evil deity in the temple, leading to a tragic massacre that wiped out the village. Later, when Yongjia Village was established, many monks and Taoist priests were invited to perform rituals. Every 5 years, people were specifically hired to reinforce it. Gazing in that direction, I had an uneasy premonition. Carrying my jade pendant and the book, I headed towards the old temple. Around the old temple, vengeful spirits swirled. These vengeful spirits belonged to the villagers who had perished in the previous massacre. Strangely, they all milled around, but none dared to enter the temple gates. Without a doubt, a terrifying presence was suppressed here. Carrying the jade pendant, the vengeful spirits retreated one after another. After circling the temple twice outside, I noticed a patch of ground that was distinctly different from its surroundings. While the area around it was covered in moss, this spot had clearly been recently disturbed. After a moment's hesitation, I returned home and informed the villagers of my discovery. Everyone began to discuss it animatedly. Some said a child's words couldn't be trusted. Others suggested inviting a sorcerer to excavate again. Zhao Guang's father, his eyes red, grabbed a shovel and rushed out. "Uncle Zheng, wait for me." I went home, got a shovel, and followed him. Yang Zheng worked away from home for years, and Xiaoguang was his only son. How could he not be consumed by anxiety after such an event? A few of us dug for a long time. Blisters formed and burst on our hands. A piece of fabric from a corner of clothing emerged from the soil. Yang Zheng cried out in agony and fainted. Everyone scrambled to help him to the side. We sped up the excavation. Xiaoguang's face also became visible. My hands trembling, I dialed the emergency number. Xiaoguang had been hanged. A deep ligature mark was on his neck. There were multiple signs of beating on his body. Perhaps for concealment, the killer had buried his body in the old temple. No one dared to approach this place. But they hadn't anticipated an inexperienced youth like me, or a father like Yang Zheng, who would risk everything for his child. That night, I kept pondering a question. Do ghosts bury bodies after killing someone? Are you familiar with Ru Zong? In our region, Ru Zong is more than just a food. A person who dies by hanging has their body suspended in midair, resembling a Ru Zong hanging from a string. Neither touching the sky nor the ground, their resentment is at its peak. The song Ru Zong ritual must be performed to send off the deceased and disperse their lingering resentment. A week later, Yang Zheng invited a master to conduct Xiaoguang's ritual. The Taoist priest dressed up as Zhang Kui, with one hand holding a hemp rope and the other carrying a soul, guiding banner. A procession of 20 people, beating gongs and drums, marched forward solemnly. It was both boisterous and solemn. I quickly ran and blocked the path of the procession. This is wrong. Someone nearby quickly pulled me aside, whispering a warning. You're insane. Don't block the way. During the song Ru Zong ritual, it is highly taboo for bystanders to watch, let alone blocking its path. Once directly encountered, one must follow the procession for its entire duration. Otherwise, grave misfortune is certain to follow. I stated. Xiaoguang hasn't left yet. The person portraying Zhang Kui appeared contemplative. For some reason, he struck me as somewhat familiar. The song Ru Zong ritual escorts not only the physical remains but also the soul. The ritual was already halfway complete, yet why was Xiaoguang's ghost still at the doorstep, unwilling to depart? I approached the doorway and saw Xiaoguang, his expression filled with suffering. A gray line extended from his ankle, leading towards the old temple on the mountain. This line originated from his spirit. Once severed, Xiaoguang too would vanish into oblivion. Thus he remains confined here, unable to find spiritual release. Xiaoguang, be it human or spirit, I am determined to expose the culprit. Departing from the group, I made directly for the old temple. Perhaps having absorbed Xiaoguang's soul, the ominous presence here felt even more profound. I invoked a divine protective incantation. As I crossed the temple threshold, within, a small Buddha statue was displayed. Beneath the Buddha statue, a small coffin had been placed. Upon its surface, Great Black Buddha Mother was crudely scrawled in blood. A sudden apprehension gripped me. Someone had recommenced the veneration of an insidious deity. A sharp pain in the back of my head caused me to slowly collapse to the ground. Blood. A significant amount of blood. Upon regaining consciousness, I found my hands bound. The bloodstains at the back of my head had already congealed. Standing before me were 3 individuals, appearing to be middle school students. Young Lion, Shuisheng, Daming. These 3 children were notorious in the village as mischievous rascals. Daming, your hand appears remarkably steady. I was concerned you might have struck him fatally. Young Lion's countenance was grim. Despite his slender build, he was unmistakably the leader of the trio. Daming scratched his head. I was exercising restraint, fearing the Buddha Mother's retribution. I declared furiously, "It was you who murdered Xiao Guang." Young Lion smiled. "Indeed? What of it? Why? Why?" Young Lion said. "I asked him for 200 yuan, but he only gave me 192. Is that reason sufficient? No." Prior to that, he had just spent 15 yuan to buy me a pack of cigarettes. Having spoken, he squatted down and lightly tapped my face with a dagger. "I'm just fooling you. Yong Yan, it's merely that I've never killed anyone and wished to try. After all, once October passes, I will turn 14. Is that all?" I could hardly believe it. To kill someone you have grown up with, merely out of curiosity. That is all. Young Lion shrugged indifferently. Then her demeanor turned fierce. Initially, everything was well. The Buddha Mother had also agreed to use a corpse as a sacrifice, to help us conceal our traces. Yong Yan, you are truly sinister. You can see things that should not be seen, and you spoke words that should not be uttered. Xiao Guang's body was exhumed, so you must now serve as the sacrifice. Before that, I shall gouge out your eyes, to discern what is special about them. The dagger glided across my face, and beads of blood began to seep out. Even in this small mountain village, the internet has become widespread. Numerous reports of heinous incidents made me realize that the world was not as simple as I had imagined. However, today's experience has profoundly challenged my perceptions. Even spirits can possess a conscience. Yet these 3 children, barely teenagers, proved to be more malevolent than vengeful spirits. Wait a moment. Daming, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. Young Lion turned back with an expression of displeasure. Daming then stated, "The Buddha Mother had declared that a complete body was required for the live sacrifice. Yet, when confronted with the wickedness of its own kind, it appeared utterly vulnerable. In the encroaching darkness, Xiao Guang's silhouette began to emerge. I witnessed Xiao Guang standing in a corner of the restroom, being assaulted by several classmates. I saw him in the classroom, publicly stripped of his trousers. I saw him in the small grove, pleading incessantly, yet still subjected to. I could no longer bear to watch. Body temperature gradually began to fade. Xiao Guang, I am here to join you. Spirit." From the boundless darkness, a man in red robes with a black beard strode purposefully towards the old temple, his gaze filled with imposing authority. By the seashore, the Taoist master performing the Zhongqi dance turned around. My intervention proved to be a mere interlude, failing to impede the progress of the ceremony. Uncle Zeng promptly stepped forward to express his gratitude. Zhongqi, however, remained profoundly silent. Return. Typically, once the ritual was concluded, the master would depart for his abode. However, upon returning to the village, the Taoist master of the Zhongqi dance, disregarding all attempts to stop him, proceeded directly up the mountain path. He cast his gaze upwards. On the mountaintop, vengeful spirits soared and black mist permeated the air. The Taoist priest let out a cold laugh. What a strong demonic presence! The great black Buddha Mother was about to break her seal and return to the human world. Within 10 days, it was feared that all the people of Yangjia village would perish. The great black Buddha Mother's scheme was remarkably covert. If not for the young friend's revelation just now, he might have overlooked it as well. The winding path leading to the mountaintop, once filled with eerie gusts, was now unobstructed, its illusion dispelled. Halfway up the mountain, the Taoist priest suddenly halted. His expression was solemn, and his sword was in hand. Drip, drip. The sound of dripping water echoed from not far away. 4 ghostly figures materialized in the air. A male corpse held a chainsaw, half of its own skull dangling from the chain. It was a headless ghost. A woman in a white dress, her face swollen, her eyes hollow. It was a drowned ghost. 2 ghost infants with pale faces and faint laughter floated closer, hand in hand. All of them were malevolent spirits. "It's over." The Taoist priest swallowed hard. He looked towards the mountaintop. "Young friend, may you fend for yourself." Bang! The temple door was kicked open. Young Lion furiously tore open the lid. All 3 of their faces showed a hint of panic. "Damn it! How did that Taoist priest get up the mountain?" Young Lion cursed. Zhuisheng said, "The Buddha Mother has dispatched a malevolent spirit to block the path. There is no need to worry." Young Lion delivered a powerful kick. Even Zhuisheng, despite his imposing stature, dared not utter a sound. "Damn it! Do you truly believe I fear that Taoist priest? At worst, he too shall be eliminated. It is because the Buddha Mother's ritual must commence earlier. There is no time to wait for it to gradually descend over 7 days." My heart found a measure of calm. It appeared that the Taoist priest performing the Zhangqui dance had also detected something amiss. Yet it remained uncertain if he possessed the ability to confront the malevolent spirit. Suddenly, with a horrific shriek, Zhuisheng slowly collapsed to the ground. Young Lion withdrew her dagger and, with a sinister grin, turned towards Daming. "Daming, do not fault my ruthlessness. With the ritual brought forward, the life of merely one person will no longer suffice." As Daming fell, Young Lion's complexion grew progressively darker. It became impossible to discern whether she was human or ghost. "Young Yan, only you are different. Your life, the Buddha Mother intends to claim herself." She searched my person, found the Taoist scripture, and tore it to shreds. Then she yanked off the jade pendant, violently smashing it into 2 halves. Young Lion carried 2 buckets of gasoline, doused me and the temple with it, then exited the temple gate and threw a match from a distance. Boom! Fiery flames erupted skyward. In an instant, I perceived the scent of burning flesh. From unbearable agony, I descended into unconsciousness. Within mere tens of seconds, I was already at the brink of death. Will I, too, become a malevolent spirit, bearing such resentment and hatred? This thought vanished in an instant. While my consciousness was blurred, a chilling power began its invasion. She intended to use my body as a vessel, breaking the seal to manifest. The horror of the great black Buddha Mother far surpassed that of ordinary specters. She must be stopped. Otherwise, everyone in the village will perish. Utilizing this chilling aura, I briefly regained my ability to act. Breaking free from the burnt ropes, I crawled towards the center of the old temple. The book recording Taoist magic had long since turned to ash. On the ground lay the fragments of a jade pendant. Originally a circle with a concave front, it had now split into 2 pieces down the middle. It strongly resembled the divination blocks Jiao Bei my father threw during ancestral worship. I knelt, picking up the fragments, moving my already burnt vocal cords. I posed an ethereal question to the immortal ancestors. Respectfully, I cast the divination blocks. Should the great black Buddha Mother, having descended upon the human realm, be vanquished? 1 yin, 1 yang, a holy cup Shengbei. Is Yang Yan, a descendant of the Yang family, capable of slaying evil? A holy cup Shengbei, the 9th caste of the cups. Yang Yan's cultivation is meager. Can assistance be granted? A holy cup Shengbei, an immense power, transcending time and space, descended upon me. The chilling sensation brought by the great black Buddha mother vanished completely. I rose from the fire, my wounds healing rapidly. The flames still burned, yet they could no longer harm me in the slightest. From my forehead, previously scarred by young lion, a golden vertical eye emerged. At this moment, many things became clear to me. Why I had seen Zhaoguang's past within the coffin. Why I could perceive the strangeness of Teacher Zhang's school. Why I could see the forms of ghosts. Why, back then, the Taoist priest was suddenly afflicted and vomited blood before he could finish speaking, forced to change his words at the last minute. The celestial eye sees through past and future. The Dharma eye discerns all things in the world. The ghost eye traverses both the mortal and nether worlds. What I possessed was neither the celestial eye, nor the Dharma eye, nor even the ghost eye. It was the eye of Erlang Shen, the illustrious sage and true monarch. With a gentle wave of my hand, the statue of Mahakala Matrika shattered into powder, and with it, the terrifying demonic aura upon it vanished into thin air. I performed another incantation, and heavy rain poured down, extinguishing the mountain fire. Stepping out of the temple gate, countless vengeful spirits gathered and flew towards me. My eyes suddenly emitted divine light. Before those vengeful spirits could even draw near, they were delivered. Seeing me unharmed, young lion, who stood nearby, trembled in his legs. The man who had always been so audacious was now so terrified that he wet his pants. I was wrong. Yongyan, please don't kill me. He desperately kowtowed. I want to go to jail. Send me to jail. Listening to his inner thoughts, I simply smiled without speaking. He knew very well that even if he went to prison, he wouldn't stay for too long. After his release, the first thing he would do was to kill Yongyan, who had made him so miserable. Seeing my prolonged silence, young lion's expression turned ferocious. He plunged a knife into his own chest. "Ha! I'll use myself as a sacrifice. None of you will survive." Young lion slowly collapsed. Young lion's body twitched several times, her eyes pitch black, and she sat up once more. The great black mother Buddha had already established a contingency within him, as a precaution. However, this fully manifested great black mother Buddha shrieked upon seeing me for the first time, then fainted again. Even the peacock Mahamayuri Bodhisattva might only speak of such things. What are you? Do you even deserve the title of Mother Buddha? Gazing at the black soul in my palm, I gently closed my hand. This demon would trouble the world no more. After completing these actions, my body swayed and I fell to the ground. I was afflicted by a severe illness. When I awoke, my father told me that the Taoist priest had ascended the mountain overnight and carried my unconscious body back. No one knew what I had done. That night, a fire broke out on the mountain. However, it extinguished itself shortly after. Perhaps due to that fire, a small burn appeared between my eyebrows, resembling an eye. My father remarked playfully, "Now you have truly opened your celestial eye." I smiled, but said nothing. A guest arrived at our door. It was then that I recognized the exorcist who performed the Zhongqui dance. That day was none other than the Taoist priest who had given me that book when I was a child. He said with a smile, "Young friend, I told you we would meet again." I felt a little ashamed. I hadn't kept that book well. The Taoist priest smiled and patted me. The Tao resides within your heart. Moreover, there is also a matter that may require the Taoist priest to address. He appeared to be deep in thought. I shall attend to it in the coming days. It is simply to announce to the public that the great black Buddha mother has faced divine retribution, and further suppression will no longer be necessary. As he prepared to depart, the Taoist priest inquired, "Did you harbor any regrets?" Following the battle atop the mountain, I entirely lost the unique abilities of my eyes. Presently, I am no different from an ordinary individual, perceiving nothing beyond the conventional. I shook my head in response. Indeed. This humble priest's inquiry was superfluous. He offered a relaxed smile. His left sleeve hung conspicuously empty. Having ascended the mountain in haste that night to confront the 4 malevolent spirits alone, it was improbable he remained unscathed. "What are your intentions moving forward?" I inquired. "To return to the mountain and, incidentally, seek out a final, closed-door disciple." "And you?" "To prepare for the National College entrance examination." Furthermore, that fateful night on the mountain witnessed another terrifying incident. Young Lion unexpectedly succumbed to madness, ending the lives of Shuisheng and Daming, and subsequently attempting to kill me. However, for reasons unknown, she inadvertently inflicted a fatal wound upon herself. This was the account I provided. During the ensuing investigation, law enforcement officials determined that they were indeed the perpetrators responsible for sustained campus bullying and ultimately the death of Xiaoguang. My own ordeal, conversely, was interpreted as having uncovered incriminating evidence, prompting the culprits to attempt to silence me permanently. As for my aspirations, naturally, they extend beyond merely securing admission to a university. While I may no longer perceive spirits from the netherworld, I have come to recognize far more specters within the realm of the living. On a specific date and time, a homicide transpired. A university sophomore barricaded their room door. Before a revered deity's statue, 3 sticks of incense were lit. Subsequently, he retrieved 2 pieces of jade pendant from his bosom, bringing his palms together. Clap!